lot of similar resources, and others may have access to them as well. So what EAPs essentially are is we are confidential employer-sponsored programs that support employee well-being. We are first and foremost mental health counselors. And instead of working in a more ongoing, long-term therapeutic or diagnostic role, which is what we are all trained to do as EAP providers, especially in an internal program, which I'll explain that, we provide more short-term. 5 sessions is very typical. Some of them have more, some have a little less, and more solution-oriented support. That being said, a lot of people will reach out to us and want less of solution and more of, I just need a very open space to talk about what's going on. And we are designed to address personal issues that come up, behavioral struggles that maybe happen oftentimes in the workplace, or even as a whole, organizational challenges that affect work performance, attendance, morale. And those are a lot of things that leaders will come to us for either themselves, their unit as a whole, or to consult on particular employee issues. Very, very briefly, EAPs we've been around for a long time. And I like to say that because, again, I had never heard of them. And I learned that EAPs have been around for decades and decades. They started in workplaces as occupational alcohol programs. The workplaces started recognizing that alcohol was impacting their employees' productivity, and they wanted some type of in-house support for them, and so EAPs were developed. They have since expanded to include many different forms of just basically the whole general mental health field and wellness now, family issues, financial support, work-related support. And we're now very integrated into organizational health. And they are broken up into internal EAPs, which is what UW-Madison has. We have an internal team of counselors, so we get to know UW-Madison and employees, culture, things that are happening really, really well. We also have an external EAP, and this is what most organizations have. It's that 1-800 number you hear during like your initial benefits when you first are hired. Sometimes there's a poster up or a flyer that comes home, and that's more generally nationwide type of support, but it's less intimate like you would have in an internal. And UW-Madison, we have in our industry what's considered a best practice model, which is hybrid. We have them both. So we have internal teams here, but we also contract with an external partner called Life Matters. There are many external EAPs, and combined, we get to have a really robust employee assistance services for you all. And that's beneficial for people in leadership positions. And so we're going to talk a little bit about why that's important.
Why you should be gentle with people. Of someone's life, what you know about it is a small portion.
So workplace stress and conflict is very time consuming, as you all are aware. It can be anywhere between 20 to 40% of a manager's time, a supervisor, a leader's time that is spent dealing with workplace conflicts alone. Sometimes some of you might say, we're going to go with 90%. Some of you might say, I'm actually okay right now. I don't have any of that. We've got a team that is, feeling pretty good right now. And a lot of the difficulties that happen in organizations do those stem from strained relationships between employees. So sometimes they are maybe structural, organizational, there's change, there's new systems, there's a lot of things that are happening that can be very stressful, but ultimately some of the things that get people reaching out to our office is the difficulty that comes from relationships and trying to supervise when there are conflicts between employees or between a supervisor and their employees. And we also are around because, especially for leaders, either unintentionally enabling or ignoring behaviors that are taking place. Sometimes we inherit them, sometimes they develop. um, they can create more issues down the road. And so we want places, UW-Madison wants places, most organizations want places where supervisors can go to confidentially talk about what's happening and to help support healthy workplace boundaries. Because as this little graph or this little image shows, we want to be gentle with people and also get some consult because, there's a whole totality of somebody's life. And what we know about it, and especially what we get to see in the workplace, is very, very limited. I actually feel like sometimes this fits for me. I think this is my life. And sometimes I feel like this is about what I know about it. So, I want you all to know some of the different ways that this looks. So EAPs are confidential. We are a free, confidential, and voluntary service. And most of them, UW-Madison, everything I say today will apply for UW-Madison and most of them in other workplaces. And that can be good to know too, because you might be supporting an employee who has a spouse or an adult child that is struggling, and you may be reminding them that they have an EAP. So you can generally use this without loss of pay. It is confidential with the exception of a few very specific life or safety related issues. Things like being actively suicidal, homicidal, or if there's unreported abuse or neglect of a child or an elder. Generally, those are the things that we have to make sure people get the support that they need. And we tell every single person as soon as they reach out what those bounds are. And that's important because sometimes people and supervisors are actually looking to support their own boundaries by having their employees come to an employee assistance program to talk about some of the things that they may otherwise be kind of bringing to you that you just don't quite feel is your place or aren't sure how to navigate, or you want to support some boundaries around that. And it can be helpful to motivate them to come to an EAP if you say, I will never find out if you reach out to them. It is private, except for a few very specific concerns, which people do reach out to us for. I'm never going to know, and no one's ever going to know. And it's your choice. It is never required. At least at UW-Madison, this is a completely voluntary program. So let's talk about a few ways that EAPs can help.
5 services.
We're going to go through each one of these. And the first one is what everyone thinks of is counseling. EAP is for counseling. And we have a stereotype, actually, that EAPs are only for the big issues that are happening, the big crises. You call EAP when something really significant is happening. And we see people at all ends of the stress spectrum. We've got I have clients, I have employees who are at complete far end burnout. My health is impacted. I am so stressed. There's too much happening. And I'm working with them with that. But I'm also working with some people who feel extremely neglected and underutilized and are bored and not. That type of discomfort can be very, very challenging. And so they might need ways to talk to their leaders or trying to make some type of adjustments in their workplace. And so we see people for so many different things, including, and this overlaps with management consultation. Sometimes people will come to us and they'll say, you know what? I have been quiet for most of my life around these issues. I learned to be quiet, and now I need to start speaking up because I'm in a new role that requires that of me. Or when I get stressed, I get big and loud, and I really want my opinion known. I come from a family like this, and that's causing some issues, and I need to learn some boundaries around that or how to adjust, and that's something I want to do. Or I tend to try and fix issues. I hear that in management consults a lot. Someone comes from a situation where they want to fix and problem solve. And that sometimes is skill development around finding a good balance between being helpful and assisting, but also not wanting to go too far to the point that you are impacted by that. So we see a lot of people for a huge variety of issues.
Top reasons.
Some of the top ones are just general stress. You do not need to know what the exact problem is to reach out to EAPs. If something feels not quite right in your life and you don't know what it is, you can reach out to us and just talk about that. So very general, just stress. Don't know what it is, where it comes from, what to do about it. That's just what's got me reaching out. That's very common. Partner and relationship issues, anxiety, employee and supervisor conflict was one of our top issues that we saw, both supervisors and employees, and sometimes together, and just general career and occupational issues. And you'll see in this graph here, probably, well, again, for this, the fiscal year we're reporting on right now, but about 60% is personal issues. Leaders are included in that. Maybe like 26% here, it looks like, was work-related stuff. There's so much overlap in these two. We kind of have to generally pick which category does it mostly fall in. And then a good amount, 14%, and it's been more, I think it might be more this year, is specifically in management consultation.
Slide title, Group Work and Facilitation.
Employee assistants can also work with employees in group settings. If there is an issue identified in a workplace, we can provide consultation, guidance on how to improve workplace dynamics to be more healthy or productive. And sometimes employees have interpersonal conflicts at work, which I've previously mentioned. It could be a very specific disagreement with each other, and we can sometimes help resolve conflicts through what we call a facilitated conversation. That again can be very helpful, and that leaders can utilize us for. And at UW-Madison, the Ombuds Office also offers something very similar in a mediation setting now. And these are just spaces where two sides of a disagreement can be heard, and employees can work together to find solutions. And employees sometimes do not want to do that with their supervisor, or their supervisor's too close to the issue. And so they want to go someplace else where it's not necessarily going to come back, and or we might create working agreements that those employees want to take to their supervisor. So this is something that can be really helpful and is a unique service that people don't always realize that we have.
Slide title, Critical Incidents and Grief Response.
We also have critical incident and grief response, particularly in IT. I know there's a great variation of the type of work that you all do, but every industry has their industry specific, what we call critical incidents, significant events, traumas that they experience. Exposure to a lot of different types of content and media, things you're not expecting to see, things that are overwhelming or kind of are not what you're maybe used to or just expecting to see. That's kind of something that happens in a lot of workplaces, and something that we've noticed in IT as being something that occasionally needs some critical incident type of support. This can also be something like someone comes into the workplace and is not feeling well and needs to go to the hospital, and nobody's expecting to need to navigate that day. It can be so many things that you're just not quite expecting, up to a loss of a colleague. And that is something that we can come in, we can provide same day, next day, we can do debriefings later, grief services. And so these are more group-based processing and support spaces.
Slide title, Trainings and Presentations.
Trainings and presentations. Sometimes leaders identify certain things, like we really need communication training across the board in our work unit. Or we have a big change coming up, or we've had a lot of change and we want somebody to come in and talk about navigating uncertainty, or just give it a general EAP overview or stress management. So we can come in and do those as well. We can design it to meet the audience's needs, or we can have it just be very, very general. We have presentations as an internal, external EAP. Our office has them, but we also have a huge variety, and most EAPs have this, a huge list of different presentations up to how to be a working caregiver, financial stress, holiday stress, and um, yeah, and they can be as interactive or not as you would like.
Additional services from Life Matters.
And this is the one that gets some people saying like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that too. Uh, a lot of EAPs through Life Matters have additional services. So for example, resource referral, employees can work with someone called a convenience guide. They can help you with travel planning, childcare. You could say, I'm really stressed out because I am now power of attorney for mom, and I need to know where the like local hospitals and all of that are on this thing, or the next one, free legal consult. I need somebody to look at the simple will or this power of attorney document, or I've got a property in Nebraska that the tenants are having some issues with, and I need to speak with an attorney practicing that area of law in Nebraska, and they will find you free legal consult. I've got a broken washing machine. Who can fix that in my area here? Can you please walk with me? I have an employee who is having housing issues, food security issues, and they need to talk to somebody who can help them. And I can't do that because of my boundary issues. I hear that a lot. So you can make these referrals to Life Matters, and they will work with individuals to find and secure the different resources that they might need and talk to them about what their particular needs are. Money management, there's financial support. So you can see EAPs are so much more than just counseling. We can be a resource to you all as managers, as supervisors, and leaders, as well as your family members, and to you all individually. And ways to make a referral, we call it sometimes speech, just telling an employee, sometimes things are taking place at home that can impact us at work and vice versa. I want you to have all the resources you need to be successful. We have a free and confidential employee assistance program that's here to help. That sometimes really takes a bit of the edge off of saying, like, you have a problem and you need to go fix that, or I think you have something happening. Just sometimes stuff is happening and it's okay. We've got resources. I can best help support you as a supervisor by focusing on XYZ here. And these other things you're experiencing, that could be really good going to the EAP. And if they can't help you, they're going to know someone on campus, most likely, who can. It's free. You could just check it out. We could call together, or we sometimes will do like a Teams, like a warm handoff. I don't remember how that's called. And then it's not just counseling.
Meeting with the EAO.
And so again, for the UW-Madison people, you can meet with EAO by contacting us at this information here. In person, we do phone calls. Virtual, we work with CLS. And for Life Matters, you can call the 1-800 number. UW system, I believe, has, I'm blanking right now, but it's online. They just switched over. I don't think it's KeyPro anymore, but they have also a 1-800 number, and UW Health System has support link.
1-800-634-6433.
You can also call 24/7 for Life Matters. And again, they can have a variety of ways that they can meet with you, and they also do peer-based and group support online as well. So that is the information that I have for you today here. Again, any of your family members are also eligible for these services. It's not just employees. So if you have anyone living in the home with you, a significant other, a spouse, a dependent adult child, they all can also access these services. So that is what I have. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Text questions.
Dave, for putting the information in. Okay, Dave, I don't see the Q&A thing in here. And I know that some of them are going to be going in there, so you might need to. Oh, I found it now. Thank you.
Text. Dave Perez.
There are no questions posted in the Q&A, and I'm not seeing any in chat or in person, so.
Hailey Kruger.
Okay. Well, let me stop this then and come down here so I can see this a bit better. So it's a lot telling you all the different services that we have. And if you ever want to just call and consult, you've now, you've met me. If there's a workplace issue, you can make referrals to us. We can really help support with quite a different, a large array of issues. Okay, here's a question. So understand the benefit and need for FMLA. However, it can be difficult to fill the work void that comes with this, especially as a distributed IT landscape. Sorry, I have to read first before I can. How to deal with this scenario, or how to communicate with our customers why delays are happening. Okay, so I think that this is more saying like, how can you communicate with customers if there's maybe if there's gaps in services, or people are either out or they're needing to be out for something. And is that, yes, okay, thank you. Well, I think that really might depend a bit. So thank you. It's a good question. There's pieces of this where if you've got an employee who's saying, I'm really struggling, like people are getting upset with me because I maybe can't produce something because there's these gaps, or they may need to come to you as a supervisor. There might need to be some support that you're providing them, or explanations of why things are happening. But that one might be a bit on a case by case. This would be a great example of one where I would love to hear more. I'd love to hear more about the particular issues. What is the stress that's happening for the employees? Is it a matter of needing to tell those individuals you're working with to, do you need to explain to them, or is it just a matter of supporting the employees who are experiencing some stress? So that would be a great consult to learn a bit more. Yes, I see a hand.
The person passes a microphone to a woman.
Thank you. Thank you, Haley. You mentioned that conflict between staff members is a frequent issue that you hear about. Do you have any advice for managers on how to be proactive to sort of set things up to like minimize the conflict between people on a team?
Well, a lot of times people want to be heard and understood for whatever the conflict is that they're having. And there's just sometimes different personalities that obviously are engaged. Sometimes there's just too much that's happened, and people need a space to talk about that and get some structure. Myself included, many people did not have great modeling or like any type of special rule book on how to have difficult conversations or work through workplace stress. So it can be helpful to have, for example, a place that you can send them or to work through it individually. Many people, when they get an opportunity to talk about their particular experiences with it, in EAP, we are always going to see that there are two sides to the situation that's happening. And we will work with them also on like trying to see the other person's maybe perspective a bit, but also just to kind of their own skill development. So it really, again, depends on what the issue of that is. But for leaders, a lot of times, like hearing them and also setting some boundaries for yourself. Like, are you coming to me with this issue or this conflict because you need advice? Do you need me to just be aware, like they're just venting and they just need to get this off their chest? Do you need me to take some type of action for you? Because a lot of times leaders will just kind of make an assumption of what the conflict is about or what their role is. And so really getting clear on the different boundaries around that. And then, and I see that we're at that time as well. And a few more questions came in. Yes, we can. We don't do it as much anymore since the pandemic with the handoff, but we can support that as well. It used to be you could walk an employee to the employee assistance office, and we're just not quite as set up for that now. So there's different ways that you can do that.
And we do have a bit of time built in, so if you want to answer these
excellent.
last questions, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, the sometimes speech. And what might a person gain by seeing EAO about the challenges of being a working caregiver? Yeah, they're already stretched very, very thin and might be reluctant to seek help. And a lot of people don't know that they're caregivers. I know that sounds silly to say, but there are so many people who are working caregivers, and there are so much different types of support. They need different types of support. There's financial things. There's sometimes like an employee may need to talk about the stress that it is for them being a working caregiver. And sometimes what they need is somebody to show them, some type of agency to show them how to safely use a lift machine. Like, it's very practical type of support. And just to know that working caregivers are juggling multiple jobs and also unpaid work. And so this can be, there's parenting and kind of that expected trajectory of raising and being we are caregivers for our children, but then there are other circumstances in life where people are providing significant care, and being able to acknowledge that, providing some flexibilities, and making sure people know that there are resources. And again, some people do not even recognize that they are a caregiver or that they meet criteria for assistance as a caregiver. Did I miss any other? And the not having enough time. Again, if you can build that in for them to reach out to us, at least to get some more like resources for their particular type of caregiving, that can be very, very helpful.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Haley. We will wrap up here. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording that I forgot to start right away.